Podcasting from Heroes Media Group with real, relevant, and raw opinions. This is the College Sports Hour with your host, Clint McPherson, and co-host, Greg Dixon.
What's up, guys? This is episode 8 of the College Sports Hour. We're talking about week 9 of the 2018 college football season, and for all the college basketball fans out there, we're inching closer and closer to tip-off. I'm your host, Clint, and I'm sitting here with my partner in crime and co-host, Greg. What's up, brother?
Hey, man, things are going great. I am so excited right now, man. I cannot wait to dive into the stuff that we're talking about today on the College Sports Hour.
I can't wait to, brother. On this episode, guys, we're talking about how the top 25 fared during week 9, how any of those upsets or losses impact their seasons, and address any final thoughts or surprises we might have from week 9. We'll also talk about the new AP Top 25 rankings heading into week 10, which on Tuesday will be irrelevant, and highlight some important week 10 matchups, and address who could be on upset alert heading into week 10.
Hey, guys, and just a quick reminder before we dive right into everything, make sure that you check out and subscribe to the College Sports Hour on iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube under College Sports Hour. You can also find us at heroesmediagroup.com by clicking on the Show tab. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and visit our website at collegesportshour.com, where we continue the college sports conversation. Today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Blue 4 Tactical. Blue 4 Tactical is a local hub for shooting novices and enthusiasts alike that delivers superior customer service while providing high-quality firearms and accessories, as well as informative and engaging classes taught by knowledgeable and passionate instructors, all at the most fair and competitive prices around. Blue 4 Tactical wants you to be part of their family at your home away from home. Be ready, be prepared, be decisive.
With that said, my man, week 9 of the 2018 college football season is in the books. Clemson, the number 2 team in the nation, showed why they are the number 2 team in the nation, dominated my Florida State Seminoles, and handed them one of the worst home losses in program history. 49 points that was separated in that. They haven't lost that bad since 1973 when the Florida Gators beat them by 49.
Good
so
grief.
That, man, we witnessed Florida, in the same sense of the word, fall flat on their face in their loss against Georgia. Texas flopped. That momentum got shut down quickly by OK State. And South Florida suffers their first loss of the season to fall out of the conversation of the unbeatens. With the first college football playoff rankings scheduled to be released this Tuesday, October 30th, between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern, what did you make out of what went down this past week, brother?
We have had us another wild, and crazy weekend of college football. You had upsets. You had games that came down to the wire, man. You had nail-biters, Kentucky. Man, you had some amazing plays. You had some amazing games. You had games that we called and games that we completely missed out on. Man, this was an unbelievable weekend of college football.
Man, on paper, we were like, these teams are going to take care of business.
Yeah.
But guess what, man? Of note right now, there are only 4 unbeaten teams because Alabama didn't play, Clemson dominated, Notre Dame took care of business, and Central Florida had a bye week as well. Then you had South Florida basically screw that up and got dominated straight dominated by Houston, and that's a Houston team I actually got to see in person a few weeks back. So that was a big surprise to me. But, man, let's get right into it. Let's don't waste any time. Let's talk about how the top 25 fared during week 9 of the 2018 college football season.
Let's do it.
So we had Georgia Southern, or let's back that up. We had App State break into the top 25 this past week. Everybody finally started saying, okay, they deserve the love to be in the top 25. And, brother, they lose to Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern's a good team. Don't get it twisted by any sense of the imagination. They're 7-1. They came into the game 6-1, but they completely dominated App State 34-14.
You know, the Mountaineers, dream finally happened. They finally were able to break into the top 25. They were getting some love, man. People were talking about them. And then Georgia Southern's defense shows up, man. They forced 5 turnovers in the game. You ain't going to win a game when you got 5 turnovers, when you're just giving the ball back to the other team. Georgia Southern shows up. They dominate the game. See ya, Mountaineers. You are out of the top 25.
Just look at the passing yards these guys had, man. Georgia Southern completed one pass. That one pass was huge because it was a touchdown.
Right.
Duke was 1 for 3. It was a 57-yard pass. But, I mean, they get the job done on the ground. But, man, like you said, those 5 turnovers played a huge role in which way this game went. Georgia Southern cruised. They got up big early, and they just maintained that lead throughout the rest of the game.
Kept rolling.
So, brother, let's get to this other game. We talked about Chip Kelly taking a huge step forward. You know, they lost the first 5 games of the season.
Yep.
They've won 2 in a row. Could it be 3? Could they keep that momentum going? Could Chip Kelly continue to get his UCLA Bruins to take those steps in the right direction? Obviously, against the number 23 ranked Utah, they rolled over UCLA. UCLA didn't even stand a chance. Obviously, UCLA was up after the first quarter, 7-3. But man, like I said, Utah rolls over UCLA, 41-10 behind Moss's career night. Man, Zach Moss rushed for a career high 211 yards and scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, man. I mean, Utah did exactly what they were hoping to do, which was just straight up run all over UCLA. They it's one of those games, and we're going to see a little bit of a common theme here this weekend of teams keeping it close in that first quarter, and then in the second quarter, man, having some breakout performances. And that's pretty much what began here. Utah began to really step it into high gear in that second quarter. You mentioned Zach Moss running for that career day of 211 yards, man. You got a guy that's going to hold onto the rock that many times and run the ball that well. Your team stands a really good chance of winning. And UCLA is left scratching their head.
Yeah, man. And when when you're coming into this game, you protect the rock, and you're able to. They did obviously. Huntley did throw an interception, but they won the turnover battle. Obviously they got 3 turnovers from UCLA. They dominated total yardage wise. They got more first downs. They just completely time of possession went their way as well. And them having that huge third quarter, scoring 21 points to really blast the game into and taking it to another level. UCLA just did not stand a chance, it seemed like, after that first quarter.
And Chip Kelly is still sitting there with just a couple of wins.
Yeah, man. And this is another game right here. This is what I'm happy to talk about, because
let's talk about this one.
Let's talk about how Syracuse beat NC State. NC State, coming into that Clemson game, again, it was another team saying they were not getting love. They didn't show up for the Clemson game. And in that first half, or basically first quarter, it really was, when they got behind 24-7 against NC State, the Wolfpack, in that game, and Syracuse gets up on them 24-7 early. That quarterback controversy, Eric Dungy showed up. He put that quarterback controversy to rest quickly. He threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for another. And, I mean, this game was hot. You saw a lot of hot. It was a big score, 51-41. But Syracuse really got off to that early lead. NC State came back and got it within 7, but really at the end of the day, Syracuse had NC State's number from the beginning.
This is one of the games that I had circled on my calendar to make sure that I was watching, just because I wanted to see how NC State would respond after that loss to Clemson. NC State past teams, man, this would have been the game that they imploded on. Is the game that you get back from that devastating loss to Clemson. You expect the good teams to bounce back this week. This is a week where you got to bounce back, get your season back on the roll. All is not lost. I mean, you only had 1 loss coming into this game. It was time to get things rolling. Ryan Finley, man, he is a high projected quarterback coming into this year's draft, man. They're expecting him. What I'm hearing is he's the number 2 rated quarterback coming into this year's draft. Exactly. And so what's he going to do? You're right. The controversy was there about Dungy. So what was going to happen? And then you start watching this first quarter unravel, man, and you're literally watching the Wolfpack completely implode. I think I texted you at some point in time during the first quarter, and I think there was like 3 minutes to go left in it, and Dungy had already thrown for 167 yards. He had 2 bombs, man. I mean, beautiful dimes that he had dropped right there in that game. One of them went for a touchdown. The other one set up another touchdown. But, man, this was just a crazy game to watch. I got to give the Wolfpack a little bit of credit for the way that they fought back into this game. I didn't see them coming back. You text me later on and said, man, the Wolfpack are making a run in this game. And I was kind of scratching my head because I didn't know what to expect. But Syracuse overcomes it all, man. They come up with a huge win at home against the Wolfpack. And, man, you're starting to watch this NC State team go downhill a little bit.
Yeah, and the defense is on both sides of the ball did not show up. It was that huge first quarter, like I said, that really put NC State behind the 8 ball, that kind of just put the game out of reach. Obviously, they got back into it. Harmon for NC State had a huge day, 247 reception yards. And Finley, when you look at his numbers, the numbers don't look bad, but the 26 for 44 is what, like, man, you just were not on point. You had that one interception that really, when you're trying to get back into the game, it proved costly. But just before we move on, man, and just to give Syracuse props for what they've done this year, at 6-2, they become eligible for the postseason for the first time in 5 years. So that's a huge step in the right direction.
Huge for them. I think the last 2 years they had four wins each season. So now to already have 6 at this point in time, man, mad props to them, man. Great job for their staff. And, man, they're putting together a nice little season here.
But, guys, this is why NC State was not getting the love that y'all thought they deserved, because they do stuff like this.
Oh.
But
nice
sorry to all the
NC,
all the Wolfpack fans out there. I'm just giving you, it's a dig. My team. Hey guys, we can talk about how bad my team is. We'll face off next week, so it's going to be a cool thing.
I don't want to talk about my team losing the Pit this past weekend either.
Man.
So let's just keep rolling.
Yeah, just keep rolling. So, all right, this is one right here.
Yeah.
This is the one I had penciled in. I felt that Houston was going to come do this, because it's just historically, it's one of those things. It's this week that South Florida's not getting any love. They stay at 7. They're undefeated. They stayed 21st. There was something had to give, and obviously the defense really gave for South Florida in this game. And Houston, their quarterback just was off the charts. He should be in the Heisman conversation because of the statistics he's putting up. He was responsible for 7 touchdowns in this game alone, 5 throwing the ball. Obviously, he had 2 interceptions, which kind of mar the numbers a little bit, but he also rushed for 2 touchdowns. The Eric King is clutch. He stepped up big. I saw him in person. He impressed me in this game. They beat South Florida 57-36, and I mean it's a huge win for Houston and a bad loss for South Florida.
Look, you said one number that should shut this entire conversation down about this team: 57 points. I don't care how high-powered your offense is, man. If you cannot create some stops on defense, man, you're lost before you ever get off the bus, man. UCF, man, we were talking about them last week, and, man, how they just barely skated by. Were only, just barely able to get off. But, man, you allowed 682 yards of total offense. 682, man. This is Houston. Houston's got a high-powered offense. Don't get me wrong. They're good on the offensive side of the ball. But 682 yards, man, I don't care who you're playing. I mean, that's an Alabama number right there. And Houston is not Alabama, but, man, you just let them roll all over you. Man, Charlie Strong's got to get back to the drawing board here as the head coach of the Bulls, man, get some things going back there. It's only their first loss of the season, don't get me wrong. But, man, this right here knocks them way out of the conversation about the unbeatens or being one of the best teams in the country or being able to be a self-promoted or self-proclaimed national championship.
Yeah, this game definitely put them in the place. It's like there's no discussion after this embarrassment, after this 682 yards, like you said. Oh my gosh, you look at that, and that has to be fake. No, it happened.
You're done. That's it.
All right, man, let's move on. We got Northwestern.
We just rolling with upsets now. We're just rolling with upsets.
Just rolling with upsets. We got number 20 Wisconsin facing off against Northwestern, and Northwestern took care of business and won 31-17. I mean, Clayton Thorson ran for 2 touchdowns and threw for another one. Obviously he had 3 interceptions, which definitely, this game could have got a lot more embarrassing for Wisconsin if he didn't have those 3 interceptions. But, man, They completely dominated this game.
What does Wisconsin like to do? They like to run the ball. That's what they're doing. And their highest rusher only got them 68 yards on the ground. Now, if you're a Wisconsin team, you're not going to be a team that just airs it out and is able to throw the ball all over the place. And so, man, when your running game goes to the garbage heap like that, man, you're in trouble and in for a long day. You look at some of the stats for this game, everything looks pretty even. I mean, total yards 323 to 349, turnovers 3-3, first down 17-19. All of that's pretty much the same deal except for the time of possession. You go there and you look at the time of possession, 26 minutes to 33 minutes in favor of Northwestern. That right there is the tail of the game right there.
Yeah, but even take it a step further, when I just look at the passing yards, you're like, here, show me the passing statistics from both teams. And I'm like, you show me the score. Okay, I see the score. Wisconsin wins this game. Because I'm thinking the running back, don't show me the rushing stats yet.
Right.
I'm thinking the running back, he had to have a huge game. I would take them to be the winner 31-17, but that was not the story. I mean, Northwestern just knocked and continues. Wisconsin continues to backpedal. They started off this year good. They were moving up in the rankings, and they continue to suffer some of these losses that you're like, they should take care of business, and they don't. And again, Northwestern, they're starting to play these teams tough. They played Michigan down to the wire.
Yep.
They're a team that can definitely upset you, and that's what they did against Wisconsin.
Well, I mean, you got Wisconsin. It's kind of going a little up and down right here. They win a week, lose a week, win a week, lose another week. It's kind of hard to once again figure them out. You're right. They get up into the top 25. They win a game or two, and then they roll back out, man. So sorry for those guys.
No consistency. But here's another team, brother, that just blows my mind of how absent the offense is at points. And they did not really show up in this game. I mean, when it comes down to it, Arizona's quarterback, Tate, he returns. Arizona rolls. I mean, they roll big against the number 19 team in the nation in Oregon, 44-15. I mean, J.J. Taylor ran all over these boys.
Yeah.
212 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Khalil Tate throws for 3 more scores in his return. I mean, they completely dominated this game throughout the contest, man.
You talk about being disappointed in a team not showing up. I don't feel like the Oregon Ducks ever got off the bus for this game right here. For this offense to only put up 15 points, you don't stand a chance. Your defense is not going to be good enough to hold teams down and to only allow less than 15 points there. To be projected as one of the top quarterbacks in this year's draft, Herbert for Oregon, for only going for 186 yards and his legs are one of his big weapons there, and he only runs for 31 yards. I mean, it leaves your head scratching here. You should have been able to beat this Arizona team, or at least make it closer than 44-15. I mean, 44-15 says to me that there's an extreme lack of effort there.
Yeah, but the thing is with him, and it's been Oregon's, basically if he's inconsistent, I mean, he threw for 50% on the day, 24 for 48. But when you look at it, the consistency, usually when he throws for 50% or less, they lose. And typically when he throws about the 70% range, they have a huge chance of winning. Obviously, that was not the case here. He only throws for 186 yards. He was not consistent. Obviously,
right.
And him being the leading rusher in the game, man, that shows how in shambles that offense is right now. They struggled mightily against Arizona. I mean, Arizona was 3-5 coming into this game. They pick up the win to move to 4-5, but that's a bad loss for an Oregon team that had better hopes on the season.
Absolutely,
brother. This game right here. This game, I mean, this was very interesting. I was glued to the TV watching this. I predicted Iowa. Iowa came into this game with a number 3 defense in the nation. I knew Iowa was going to give Penn State fits, and they start. It looked like that was going to happen. It looked like that Iowa State or Iowa was going to win this game. I don't know why I said Iowa State, but it's Iowa. I mean, but Penn State again doesn't play that great. But they escape with a 30-24, win with that stand at the end of the game. I really thought Iowa was going to be able to punch it in, but that was a huge stop for Penn State. I mean, with Nick Scott intercepting that pass and Thornton that comeback or that, at the 2-yard line with 3:18 left, that was huge.
Oh, no doubt. Let me start by giving a lot of props to Penn State and James Franklin and that team. We had kind of been on their case a little bit over the last couple of weeks, specifically coming out of that loss to Ohio State. Man, really thought they were going to do some great things for their season, and they didn't really feel like that they had been playing all that well over the last several weeks. But man, this right here is a really good win against a tough, hard-nosed Iowa team. You mentioned their defense, and they put up 30 points on that defense. Man, that just coming off of being able to shut out a Maryland team. Now, granted, Maryland is not in the same stratosphere as Penn State right now, but man, anytime you can pitch a shutout, man, that's a strong defense. And man, they were able to come in there and put some points up on the board, made some huge stops, made some huge plays to be able to win this game. And so, I just got to give a lot of credit to the Nittany Lions, man, coming in there and showing a lot of heart and putting forth a great effort in this game.
Yeah, Iowa's quarterback Stanley had it didn't have the best game, but
right.
you look at the stat lines here. Nobody had that good of a game because when it comes down to it, it was a sloppy, it was wet, it was nasty conditions. But I mean, McSwirly goes, Tracy McSwirly goes down. He's injured. The backup comes in and gets the team right back into the game by going, rushing the ball and getting into the end zone. And then McSwirly basically does tag team. I'm into the game now in the second half. And then they just don't turn back from there. Obviously, Iowa tried to, come back at the end, but Penn State's defense had that huge stop. But when it comes down to it, man, McSorley, he stepped up when he had to. He had some big plays. He had a huge rush right there in that game where he scored that touchdown. I mean, Penn State steps up. Again, I'm not going to say they're not in the great caliber like James Franklin claims, but I give them props for coming back and winning this hard-fought game against the number 3 team or the number 3 defense in the nation.
Yeah, man.
So this game, we completely missed, man. When it comes down to it, because I'm not like the Fitzgerald's been on, he's been off. It's like his passing's okay, his legs help him take him to the next level, but it really in this game it seemed like all of it came together. He threw for 241 yards, which has been absent most of the year. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns passing the rock, and he had 2 more on the ground. I mean, he really helped lead this Mississippi State team to this win over number 16 Texas A&M, 28-13. I mean, he took that team to the next level. And this is the Fitzgerald everybody was hoping that they saw at the beginning of the year, where he can throw and and drop some of these dimes and then rush. I mean, when he's able to run and throw the ball, he's kind of deadly.
So Mississippi State is the most Jekyll and Hyde team I have ever seen in my entire life of watching any kind of college sports ever in the history of college sports. One week you are hot, sloppy, wet garbage, and the next week you might as well be one of the best teams in the nation. That's exactly who Mississippi State is right now. There is no way after watching last week, after watching you play against LSU and watching you not be able to hit the broadside of a barn or throw your ball out of a wet paper bag, that I ever thought in a million years that Nick Fitzgerald would come in there and throw for 241 yards against a Texas A&M team who had only had 2 losses on the season, one to number 1 Alabama and the other one to number 2 Clemson. That was it. There was no way that you were going to play this kind of a game. But yet you go 14 of 22 for 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then add on top of that, you're going to run the ball 16 times for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, figure out who you are and be that guy. Stop messing with my emotions like this and messing up my picks every week.
Yeah, I mean, stop falling out of top 25 just like Wisconsin and jumping back in. I mean, when we get to the rankings, which are going to be irrelevant, obviously, by Tuesday anyway, that they're back in the top 25, man. So, like you said, they're the most Jekyll and Hyde team right now, I think, in the nation, where it's like, they have a good defense. But the offense has to tag along, and the offense actually stepped and took a step in the right direction this weekend.
Sure.
But are they going to be able to consistently do that for the rest of the season? That's to be determined. But
wait, who are they playing next week? It doesn't matter. They're going to lose.
Exactly. It's like you're going to win, you're going to lose. You're going to win, you're going to lose. Is Fitzgerald going to actually throw the ball good, or is he not? That's the thing. It's a big difference when he's able to do both, because he's a deadly weapon then. And when when you're able to just stop him rushing the ball or stop him passing the ball, whichever one, I mean, you have a greater chance. But when he's doing both, I mean, Texas A&M, I really thought they were going to come out ready for this game. They didn't.
Yeah.
They got up. They were up 10-7. I mean, it was a 14-13 game there for a little while, but that fourth quarter, Mississippi State owned and just took it to them.
Let's just say I'm a little disappointed there in our Texas A&M Aggies, man, to come out there. I thought this would be a keep their momentum going here, man. This is a team that should have won this game, and maybe we had kind of anointed Texas A&M as being back a little too soon.
Yeah, that's true. Jimbo, you need to tighten up over there.
Jimbo.
So let's go. Number 15 team in the nation. This is another game that we've been waiting for Browning. We've been for him to turn that corner. And, man, that did not happen. He got pulled from the game. The backup came into this one. But, linebacker Evan Weaver scored on a 36-yard interception return in the third quarter after Washington made a change of quarterback. So they took Browning, the guy that I've been waiting to have that breakout game, out of the game, and then basically utilized their defense the rest of the game and just kept Washington at bay and won 12-10, man.
Yeah, if you were asking me to pick the score of this game, last week, there's no way I'd have thought that Washington only comes out of this thing with 10 points. Let's not forget, Mr. Browning was in the conversation as a Heisman Trophy candidate going into the season. Everybody was, you keep making the comment, waiting for him to turn the corner and make that kind of progress for a season here, or have that game. Man, we're certainly not seeing the Jake Browning that we thought we were going to see coming into this season, man. He's not having a good game. He's not able to lead this team to victory. And once again, against another game that they should have won.
Well, we say that should have won, but all the expectations were placed on their head. But man, this is a Washington team I'm not going to pick again. Obviously, I don't care if they jump back into the top 25 rankings or stay in the top 25, whatever it is. I will not be every game. It's going to be picked against Washington because I cannot. I've been wanting again, like I've said. I've been waiting. Waiting. Brownie's going to show up. He has these weapons, but then they don't. So I'm done. Washington, we're through.
Look, I mean, and it's not like this is a game that experienced a lot of high-powered offense on either side of the ball. I mean, you got 250 total yards of offense for Washington versus 242 yards of offense for Cal. This was a crazy game.
Yeah, without a doubt. When you look at what Washington has on that side of the ball, I mean, with the athletes they actually have and the expectations that were placed on them, there's no way you could have told me they're going to just get 250 yards against a Cal team. I'm like, nope, not happening. 400 at least. No, didn't happen.
This was supposed to be the Pac-12's answer, and to come in and be the national championship title contender for them. They were supposed to make the college football playoff this year. This was their answer this year, and now we're losing to Cal.
But with that said, let's switch and transition over to the actual Pac-12 hopeful right now.
I like that little drama you had in your voice there, man.
I got to build it up, So Washington State, one of the biggest movers and shakers in the poll last week by moving up as fast and as far as they did. They go and take care of a business against the number 24 ranked Stanford team. Number 14 Washington State rallies and wins. They fall behind in this game.
Yeah.
And they relied on Gardner Minshew. He completed his first 19 passes of the second half and drove his team to a 42-yard field goal at the end of the game with 19 seconds remaining. Dude, this Cougars team gets me excited. I love when somebody can go throw the rock around like Gardner Minshew did, 40 for 50, 438 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has to be in the Heisman conversation, man. He's throwing the rock. He has a mustache. He has it all right now. He has it going. He has Mike Leach as his coach. Washington State has made me a believer right now.
Oh my goodness! Stop the presses. Hold up, man. We got fireworks going off in the background. Clint is a believer in the Washington State Cougars, man. Watch out now. Watch out what happens to him next week now.
No defense, though.
That's right. Listen, Washington State is on the road in this game. It's so difficult and so hard to get wins on the road within your conference, and man, they go on the road, and you're right, man, they have to come from behind like that to beat a good Stanford team. Stanford's not the team that we thought they were going to be this year, but they are still a good team. Bryce Love has been hurt, been up and down this season, so I put a lot of weight on that, the fact that he hasn't been able to play. Bryce Love only carried the ball 6 times. He got 71 yards out of it, but he only carried the ball 6 times in that game, so you kind of got a little question mark around there. What's going on. Yeah, you're right. He's not healthy. But you tell me that he runs the ball 6 times for 71 yards, though. I think I might find another carry or 2 in there for him. But to be able to come from behind like that, man, I tell you what, that's an impressive win for me for these no-name Washington State Cougars, man. They've come out of nowhere to capture the nation by storm right now.
I mean, and again, man, with this win, they move up even bigger, and we'll get into that. But they're taking a step. They're taking huge leaps and bounds in these rankings, and will they get that love come Tuesday? We'll have to find out. All right, man. This is another team that's been the Jekyll and Hyde even though they've only lost one game this year, but it's the inconsistency. Whether Will Grier, just shows out or not. He's struggled. He's had some games where he struggled. Even in their loss, he struggled. But man, this game on the Thursday night, number 13 West Virginia takes care of business. They score 31 points in the second quarter, 10 in the first, but 31 in the second quarter to basically just run away with this game. Will Grier was on point, had 3 touchdowns, had 353 yards passing, 17 for 27. Dude was on point. West Virginia was on point, and they hold Baylor to 14 points, so they win 58-14. West Virginia did exactly what I expected them to do. They took care of business, and definitely, man, this is a reason I was a believer in them early in the season, and they have a huge game against Texas coming up this weekend. So what are your thoughts?
Not a whole lot more to add to this one, man. Will Grier did what he was supposed to do. You're right. This is the guy that we should have been seeing all season. We haven't. Baylor's a team that can put up some points, and so to see West Virginia their defense to be able to step up that way as well, to be able to hold them to only 14 points and 287 yards of total offense. Hats off to them. You're right. This could have been a very easily been seen as a trap game for them as they were getting ready for the big matchup with Texas, but then they were able to hold their own. They were able to put some points up, get the win out of this game, and move on to fight another day.
Man, and this next matchup has got me pumped because I've been a believer in this team all year. Number 12, Kentucky, scores on the last play of the game, man, to beat Missouri 15-14. When Tyler Wilson threw that 2-yard touchdown pass to C.J. Conrad on the final play, man, this was an untimed play too. You got to think there's a penalty that basically, that would have ended the game if that penalty didn't happen. Missouri would have won. But Kentucky got that final play, got to, the untimed down. I even looked at the scoreboard, I want to say, on my phone, and it said final. It had Missouri winning. But obviously it was a final on the scoreboard, obviously, and then they had the the review or whatever, the penalty. So it kind of debunked that because I was watching it live. And so that victory is huge, and it sets up a huge matchup against Georgia.
No doubt.
For this Kentucky team. I mean, obviously Kentucky, I think, only moves up one position in the rankings to number 11. But, man, if they can beat Georgia after what Georgia did to Florida, and they can rely on this defense and get – and man, what surprised me in this game is Terry Wilson stepped up. This is a guy that I said he's not going to be able to do it because this is a game that Missouri stopped Benny Snell from running. He rushed for 67 yards. Obviously, he's not not bad, but they stopped him, man. He's been the heart and soul of that offense. But Terry Wilson steps up huge and delivers 267 yards, 22 for 31. I don't even think he's eclipsed 20 passing attempts during the whole season, man. And he comes through when they need him. They win, and this right here gets me excited just to talk about it.
If you'd have told me that going into the fourth quarter that Kentucky was going to be down and they had to come from behind, they had to have two scores to basically be able to win this game, there's no way I'm thinking that Kentucky's going to do this because that's not how they're built. They're built on defense. They're built on running the ball. If you show me the stats that Snell only is going to have 67 yards rushing, then I'm going to tell you that Kentucky's not going to win that game. There's no way I'm thinking that you can put the game on the line and put it and rest on the arm of Wilson to be able to win you that game. But he does. Hold up now. It's timeout. If you've got a quarterback to go with that running game, to go with that defense,
deadly.
You've got you a stud team. And so I know that Georgia had the big matchup with Florida we'll talk about here in just a few moments, but they best be getting their shoes back on real quick, getting the pads on tight, man, because this right here is going to be a hard-hitting game comes this weekend.
Yeah, man, when Kentucky falls behind in the second quarter 14-3, my mind was already made up they lost the game.
Yeah.
Because from what has happened during the season, Terry Wilson has not been able to step up in some of these moments to deliver that to go along with with the running game that they have. And so the inconsistency there at quarterback, which he's very athletic, but man, he proves to you some of these short passes and some of these quick slants that he can connect on. He has some holding power at that quarterback position. But man, he's leading a team that's 7-1 right now, going into play in Georgia. But man, like I said, when they were down 14-3, I wrote them off. But for them to score 12 points and to shut out Missouri the rest of the game, that was huge. That helped them pull it out. And I mean, again, this is a team I believe in. Now, do they get the job done against Georgia? Probably not. But man, they're exciting to watch, and that defense is on point.
Georgia can't look past Kentucky. I'm telling you, you're right. I'm probably not sitting there at the end of this week picking Kentucky to beat Georgia, okay? But Kentucky won this game on the road. We know how difficult those road games can be. They got to win on the road, man. Now they got this game coming up against Georgia. Georgia can't overlook them, or Kentucky will shock the world.
Without a doubt. So we're transitioning to another game where historically, what we've seen in the past is Oklahoma struggles in this game.
Right.
But the number 8 Oklahoma Sooners, Kyler Murray, shows out, has a huge game. I mean, he didn't throw for much. I mean, obviously 19 for 24, but 352 yards to go with that, 3 touchdowns. He shows out, man, and helps them just dominate Kansas State from the beginning. They scored 17 in the first, 17 in the second, 14 in the third. and get just a measly field goal in the third, or in the fourth. What's wrong with these guys? Come on, guys. You just get held to a field goal. I think the team was basically, it was wrapped up. You can't run the score up. I got it. They dominate this game 51-14. Kansas State didn't have a chance. But, man, there was a lot of people telling me Kansas State was going to pull this upset off.
Well, I heard that too, man, and obviously, we weren't necessarily buying into that conversation or anything along those lines. But Kansas State normally plays Oklahoma well. But this game was over very quickly in the first quarter. Hey, do you by chance happen to know how many total yards Oklahoma happened to throw up there? We may have been, shooting Kyler Murray down a little bit. Do you by chance happen to know how many yards they had?
Well, when I said what I did, I didn't mean to say he didn't put up a lot of numbers. I was trying to talk about his pass attempts. Because they put up 702 yards.
Would you say that number again?
702. What?
They put up 702 yards. Are you okay? I'm out. I'm done. Let's move on.
I mean, Lamb, 4 receptions, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just, man, come on. 32 first downs.
Yeah.
32 to 13. Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, go play your next game, Oklahoma.
Let's move on. All right, man. This game right here.
Wow.
On Thursday, I don't know if you got to hear our live, but I brought a Florida fan on with Josh Humphrey. Yeah. And that is not our podcast, guys. Yeah. So he did great, man. He made a guest appearance. That's our Facebook Live. I actually had the College Sports Hour podcast logo on there. I'm going to actually need to switch that up because I didn't want people to get confused. That's not our podcast. He's not an actual co-host, but he was a guest. And he did a great job. And he was a big believer in this team actually, his thinking Florida would turn the corner. But obviously he's a Florida fan, so he's going to believe that.
Sure.
I've said from the beginning the offense is really what's going to slow Florida down. Got a great defense. But your offense has to be clicking too. Frank's, it's just, Florida's heading in the right direction, no doubt, with Mullen.
Sure.
But Frank's is just not the quarterback, man. It's like you have to, P. Ryan, he's good. But when Jake Fromm actually has a good game, when he goes 17 for 24, 240 yards and 3 touchdowns, any speculation after that performance about the freshman Justin Fields coming in and supplanting him into the starting lineup. But with that said, man, when they win this game 36-17, if he struggles against Kentucky, that conversation could be right there again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the conversation's not going anywhere. Justin Fields isn't leaving anywhere. I think both of us have a lot of Georgia fans that were, everybody gets up for this game. Don't get me wrong or anything. But there was a lot of conversation about, should Justin Fields come in there? And everybody's chanting and cheering. Yeah, I'm so glad that we're leaving Fields. Fields is going to get his chance to play later on. Right now, it's still Jake Fromm's team. And from the looks of this game, it still looks that way, that Fromm's firmly supplanted in there as the quarterback until he has another poor game. You're right. This game right here, we had the conversation last week about this game, and in our predictions, it was all rested upon the game that Jake Fromm was going to play. Was he going to be the quarterback that everybody expects him to be, or was he going to be, a little bit more what we've seen the last couple of weeks? And he came out there, and man, they won this game running away, 36-17. Swift lived up to his name. He was pretty swift out there. See that? 12 carries for 104 yards, one touchdown. They had the stronger of the running game there when you expected Florida maybe to have a little bit of a stronger running game there. Not so much in their favor, but Georgia kind of puts the conversation to rest there about which one was going to be the better team coming out of the East. But they still got that matchup coming up with Kentucky. Yeah,
this was a huge top 10 matchup. Pitt number 7 Georgia versus number 9 Florida. Florida fans wanting to think they've taken that corner, that they've hit that turn. But, man, let's be honest. I was texting back and forth to Josh, too, because he was like, man, are you watching this game? We're giving the game to him. But when you go in there and turn the ball over and the other team doesn't, and then they total yards wise, they out yardage you. They get more yards than you. I mean, dude, that breeds a disaster. I mean, obviously Florida was lucky to still be in the game and going into the third quarter and having that lead at 14-13 because they were just dropping. They were having good drives. They were turning the ball over. But man, Georgia really turned it on when you needed it to happen. They scored at the end of that game and they really separated. It was a lot closer, than the score indicates throughout the game. But really, in that second half, man, Georgia just took over and basically ran away with it.
Georgia, obviously Georgia needed this win. If they were going to keep any kind of conversation, surrounding them rolling about, being able to get into that college football playoff. But it was going to be interesting to see how they would respond after that, horrendous loss to LSU a couple of weeks ago. They had some time to think about it, having that off week there. So seeing them come out and respond well against this Florida team really bodes well for them moving forward. But like we said just a few minutes ago, man, they got to get the cleats on. They got to get the pads on tight. They got to get that helmet strapped up because they have got a hard-hitting Kentucky team that they're getting ready to face.
So transitioning to the game, the team that I was not a believer in at the beginning of the year, and it was like, okay, their momentum has to end.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why, man.
Right.
It's like I knew this was going to happen. Obviously, Texas is heading in the right direction, but for the number 6 team in the nation to go against the team that's lost 3 games already, Oklahoma State's not that great. They're not good. I mean, they're average. They're at best. I mean, obviously sitting at 4-3 coming into this game, you would expect Texas to take care of them. But man, obviously this is a road game for Texas. They go in Oklahoma State. That offense was clicking from the beginning. Walk-on 4 years ago, Tyler Cornelius. He's received a great story. He's received his share of local criticism. Through 2 straight losses, and people calling for him to get pulled from the starting lineup. But man, he steps up huge, man. 23 for 34, 321 yards, 3 touchdown passes, and plus that huge dive into the end zone for him to really put that game to an end. Obviously Texas makes it close.
Makes the run, yeah.
Makes that run. But, man, when him diving in and getting into that end zone the way he did and just sacrificing his body and basically and basically getting that separation that they needed, Oklahoma State is 502 total yards. A team that turns around the corner that has hopes for a national championship or a college playoff berth, you do not give up that many yards to a team that's 4-3 coming into this game.
Exactly. Talking about Cornelius there, talk about that play getting into the end zone, man. You get some respect for being able to do that, for being able to put your body out there to take one for the team, so to speak. Man, I know they were celebrating his effort for that game, but for me, man, it comes down to Texas's defense. That 502 yards, golly, man, you can't do that. You would think that if you're a Texas team and you put up 35 points, that you should be able to win most games being into that. You don't anticipate your defense giving up that amount of points to an Oklahoma State team that, yes, can put up some points, but really in all actuality isn't in the same category as your team at this point in time. But that time of possession right there, man, really kind of stands out too. You had 25 minutes for Texas versus 34 minutes for Oklahoma State. Almost a 10-minute differential there that they held the ball versus the Longhorns. So, I mean, you're not going to win the games, most games doing it that way.
Yeah, it was the defense that just took them a long time to get into the game. That second half, obviously, they were lights out, giving up that one huge touchdown, though, at the end, towards the end with Cornelius getting in the end zone. That was huge. But, man, you had 2 guys, the quarterback and Cornelius, and then you have Wallace, man, just slicing and dicing that secondary up. 10 receptions, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, again, like I said, Texas is headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
But everybody wanted to say they're back. Dude, you cannot say that until they go through the season and do what they do. Everybody wants to proclaim this team's back or this team's done this and they've done that. But, dude, when you're back, you don't do stuff like this.
And we'll see how you respond this week when you got another tough matchup coming on.
That West Virginia game is going to be tough, man.
Absolutely.
So, another game that a lot of people were saying that, this team was going to struggle with the run. Obviously, they did to a certain degree because Navy is pure run. But obviously, Notre Dame, number 3 team in the nation, takes care of business, wins 44-22. The first half really says it all. They go up 27-0 at halftime. There was no turning back. Obviously, after that, they kind of traded scores for the rest of the game. But, man, Ian Book continues to impress me. 27 for 33, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception. But Dexter Williams, man, 23 carries, 142 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This Notre Dame team has every right to claim that they should be in. And I think when those rankings come out on Tuesday, they'll definitely have that spot that they deserve.
Well, I mean, they've had some quality competition that they've played. Let's not forget that they started off the year beating a Michigan team that is finding themselves ranked pretty high up there as well. That's kind of working their way into that conversation as well. That's going to go a long way for this committee. I don't think that as long as they continue to go undefeated, I don't think there's any way that you can keep them out of that conversation. They played well in this game for the most part. I would imagine that, at least in my opinion, after halftime, they kind of put this thing in cruise control. They knew they had the game in hand and just kind of continued to roll on with it. This obviously wasn't the best competition they played all year, but they were able to get a win out of it.
They do exactly what you expect the number 3 team in the nation to do against a Navy team. That's not. I mean, obviously they can beat you. They can punch you in the mouth if you can't stop that running game. But they came into that game 2-5. Obviously, we all expected them to fall to 2-6, which they did. And Notre Dame impressed me by just continue to take care of what we consider some of these cupcake teams.
Yep, no doubt.
And then this game right here, totally.
I'm not going to say a lot about
man.
this one. It's all on you.
And it's a lot of cupcake in here over here too, man. A lot of quitting my boys. The Florida State Seminoles really depressed me, man. Really strike a chord because this when I started watching this game, I was a believer that they can hang with them. I would have been unrealistic to think they were going to win this game.
Okay.
Coming into it. Now this game is historically, it's considered a rivalry game because these are usually the 2 best teams in the ACC. Got it.
Yep.
But Trevor Lawrence straight showed out, man. He throws for 4 touchdown passes, and they basically just, put a mud hole in Florida State. What really put Florida State behind the 8 ball, which you probably didn't watch the game, but you might have seen some highlights.
Yep.
Florida State, it was 0-0 going into the second quarter. Florida State, it seemed like, Trevor Lawrence was a little confused. The offense couldn't get going. But what really got it was Clemson had a good drive. They got in the field goal range. Florida State, tries to block a field goal. They shank the field goal. We run into their kicker. And from then on, the whole momentum of the game just went Clemson's way. They go on to reel 28 straight points after that. Then go into the third quarter and score 24 more to Florida State's 3, and then win 59-10. There's talk about people, the kids quitting.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of quitting the kids on the field. It seemed like they just after that block, that missed blocked attempt field goal, but they shanked it. It was like, dude, you didn't have to run into them. That right there, something that small for a team this brittle in Florida State. Thinking they've arrived because they basically dominated a not that good Wake Forest team. And to think they're going in the right direction, which obviously this game proves they're not. They have more problems than you could really put a finger on. But to quit, man, that's totally unacceptable.
Well, look, you are playing let me play devil's advocate here. You are playing the number 2 team in the nation that's out to prove that they are one of the best teams out there. There's been a lot of conversation about the quality of competition that they faced in the ACC this year, that Clemson hasn't really been able to play anybody. So they come off of the dominating performance against NC State, who had the ranking at that time to be able to say their competition. And FSU has the name recognition as far as top quality competition is concerned. Maybe not the FSU of old that we know about, but they've still got that name. So they were looking to come in there and put forth an effort. And you're right, man. Just one simple play right there can swing things in such a huge direction there. But man, Clemson comes in there and is able to handle business the way that they should. You expect them to be able to go in there and dominate teams, and this was one of those dominating games.
Yeah, and it's just sad that this equaled their Florida State's worst home loss in program history. That's a sad day. This team has a brighter future ahead, but again, I just don't think we have the answer right now at quarterback. When you have 17 rushing yards and you have somebody like the caliber of Cam Akers, it's just like, what are we doing? This offense is not playing to our strengths and our personnel. We have a quarterback that holds on to the rock too long. Put somebody in that gets rid of it, makes better decisions. Obviously, Francois, when he has a clean line or protection, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football, but that is not the case. You have to understand what you're playing with. You have to understand your personnel, and obviously it looks like the coaches are clueless right now. From the coaches to the players, Florida State just doesn't have – and like I said, they've already exceeded my expectations as getting 4 wins. I said earlier that they would only get 3. They've exceeded those expectations, dude. But do you see the lineup they have coming up? They have Notre Dame. They have Boston College. Those 2 teams are ranked. They got Florida, another ranked team. So they got a lot of ranked teams coming up on the docket. Boston College, is one of those teams that everybody's like, okay, they could win. We could win any of those games, but not the way this team's playing. A lot of these teams are going to take care of business. Notre Dame's probably going to shellac us. I mean, a lot of these teams are just going to come and roll over us, and it's unfortunate, but that's just reality right now.
It'll be interesting to see how they respond after this game.
So, man, after all of that, dude, what is the biggest surprises or takeaways that you got from Week 9?
I think some of the biggest surprises for me are some of those back-end teams in the top 25 that were supposed to show up and ended up losing and not handling their business. But the biggest takeaway for me this week is the fact that Texas thought that they were going to be in that conversation there in that top 6 when everything came out on Tuesday. And, man, after that heartbreaking loss to Oklahoma State right there, they really lost their way as far as being in that conversation for the remainder of this year.
Yeah, I mean, the big takeaway for me is obviously we had a lot of the top teams had buys this week, but I mean, just to see some of these top teams also take care of business. I mean, and when we haven't seen, we've seen some of these top teams struggle, and obviously these are games that they should have taken care of business in, when you look at the stat sheet. But like I said earlier, historically, sometimes these teams struggle against some of these teams like Oklahoma, struggling to Kansas State, Georgia, losing to Florida, stuff like that. But it didn't happen. The teams that are ranked where they are right now look like they deserve those positions. But we'll see again. This next week is going to be huge, and I'm excited, man.
Oh, absolutely.
So the new rankings came out today, obviously, the AP Top 25 Week 10 rankings.
That ain't going to matter anymore.
Yeah, and again, this is not going to matter, but I wanted to touch on it because, look, Washington State, brother, they're in the top 10. They're top 10. Are you kidding me?
Man, that's crazy.
And then Ohio State, my thing is Ohio State is a head scratcher.
I was getting ready to ask you about that.
That's a head scratcher for me. They don't play, right?
Yep.
But you also have Purdue that just beat them.
Yep.
Lays an egg against Michigan State. Yep. But you still have Ohio State move up.
Moving up 3 spots.
Even though Penn State, okay, their one loss was against Penn State. Or actually their Penn State, as far as it's one of those things that Penn State lost to them.
Yeah. Right?
It was a close game, 27-26. So Ohio State didn't lose that game, but it was real close. And what are they basing that ranking off of, man? That's my thing. I'm sitting here like wondering, okay, Ohio State just gets demolished by Purdue. Purdue obviously goes out and lays an egg against Michigan State, but they continue on a bye week, move up 3 positions when you got these other teams that won more impressive games like Kentucky, West Virginia, took care of business, and they're just bumping up a spot. Totally confused right now, man.
My other thing on that is I think one of their other big wins that everybody's looking at for Ohio State would be the win against TCU earlier in the season. Yeah. Where is TCU now?
Did you see what they did this weekend?
Yeah, exactly.
Kansas.
Exactly.
Lost to Kansas.
Yeah, it's not like, so when you look back at their schedule now as compared to the beginning of the season, it's not looking like they have at this point in time some really top tier wins at this point.
And let's give some shout outs to some new teams that have jumped back into this. Yes. Obviously, Utah moves up huge. They were in the top 25, but they move up 7. Huge movers in the rankings. And then you have Houston, man. Houston moves up to 17. Utah State 18. You got Fresno State 20. Mississippi State, like we talked about, jumps back in, which they'll probably drop back out the next week. Syracuse jumps in there. Virginia, ACC. Boston College, ACC takes a big step forward. So some of these teams are one-loss teams that have been taking care of business, on the low, and they're starting to get the love. I was thinking that this week Georgia Southern with their win and their upset win over App State, they would sneak in. They're hovering around. Obviously, they're one of the ones still receiving some votes, but I would definitely put them over Washington and Northwestern. Maybe not, but man, this top 25, from like the top 5 back, it's just ridiculously all over the place.
2 Texas teams right there suffering a hard week in the top 25 this week. Texas with their loss dropping 9 spots down to 15, and then Texas A&M with their tough loss dropping down 9 spots to number 25.
Yeah, man. So let's just transition quickly to some of the top 10 week 10 games that are coming up. So we got Alabama at LSU.
Yep.
We have Michigan versus Penn State. So, Michigan's going into Penn State. Penn State's going to Michigan.
Penn State's going to Michigan.
Yeah, sorry. And then Georgia at Kentucky, which is when do you say that's a big game? Obviously, that's huge this week. Yep. You got Texas playing West Virginia.
That's huge.
Dude, this lineup of games this coming week, this is going to decide a lot.
there is going to be so much on the line for all of these teams that in those four big matchups that you had right there. I think I saw the line earlier today, man. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but Alabama, I believe, is a huge favorite beginning of this week.
14 points. Yeah, two
14
touchdowns.
Points. Okay, so you saw that too, man. So that's obviously a big one right there for them. There's been the conversation about Alabama not having played a whole lot of tough competition so far this season, but they're also coming off of a week of rest, and you're giving Nick Saban 2 weeks to prepare for you. Good luck, Coach O.
Yeah, exactly. And the offense, I mean,
it
does LSU's offense show up? Because if they don't, like some of these other games, they're not going to stand a chance.
Right. No, that Michigan. I'm kind of licking my chops on that Michigan-Penn State game as well.
Michigan's double-digit favorites in that one. Did you see that?
Are they? I didn't see that one. Oh
double digits.
Wow. Okay. All right. Not a lot of love happening there.
Yeah, and I'm sure Georgia's definitely the favorite against Kentucky. Got it. Yep. But man, Georgia's going to have to go in to Kentucky to win that game, dude. You need to expect a dogfight. Do not overlook this Kentucky defense. Obviously, what would be a big deciding factor is if Terry Wilson shows up again. If he shows up and then Benny Snell Jr. gets running the rock, I mean, dude, Kentucky can definitely pull this upset off.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, hey, a game that was going to be bigger than we thought it was the Texas-West Virginia. We got Texas going against West Virginia 15-12. So, again, this could be a huge step in the right direction for Texas. But, man, I just like this West Virginia team, and I think at the end of the day, Will Greer and his team will get it done.
I might have to go against you on that one. I may be looking for Texas to rebound strong against this West Virginia team, especially at home.
Hey, man, that's fine, though. I got it. So, check it out, man. Out of all those teams, dude, I mean, we just talked about it. I mean, if you could circle one game right now, who's the upset?
Are we going with those four? Or are we going with any of them?
Any of them, man. If you see another one that jumps out at you a little better than that one.
Well, not any of them jump out for me any better than those other games, but I'm not picking against Alabama. I'm not picking Penn State at this point to go against Michigan either.
Watch out, Notre Dame.
Oh, true. That right there is something you better be paying attention to, that Notre Dame Northwestern game. But I'm going down all the way down to number 16 Utah, who is playing at a team that came up with a huge win this weekend in Southern Cal. The Arizona State Sun Devils, baby, got a big win against USC this weekend. I'm projecting Arizona State to go against and come up with a big win against Utah.
Yeah, Benjamin had a huge game again, man. Arizona State, they played a close game, and they actually came out on the other side. USC started that true freshman quarterback. It just, man, Arizona State had it going. Benjamin had it going. I like that pick, but man, again, if I'm just going to go off the wall, I'm looking. It's another team that I think could fall from the unbeatens. I kind of want to go to the Notre Dame Northwestern, but man, I like Notre Dame too much. But I'm looking at that number 9 team right now in Central Florida going against Temple. I think Temple, if they're not careful, Temple can upset them.
Wow, you're exactly right. It's not like, the last time we saw UCF, it's not like they were playing lights out either. So, I mean, they've got to kind of watch out for the sneakiness of those Temple Owls.
All right, brother, that wraps up our Week 9 conversation and our Week 10 talking about the new rankings. I mean, let's transition the conversation real quickly before we close this out and just give me your thoughts on this basketball season that's right around the corner.
Man, let me tell you something. This right here is one of those seasons that, kind of going into it, everybody's having a lot of conversation about, not the preseason rankings matter or anything like that, but it does kind of give you an idea of where things are lining up. And man, there's a lot of conversation about who could potentially be number 1. You got your usuals up there. You got Kentucky and Kansas, and man, there's a lot of conversation going back 1 and 2 about who belongs there. There's conversations about Duke and the freshman class that they have. There's conversations about Nevada being up there, man. That's a kind of a surprising team that's up in there as well. Gonzaga is another team that's in there in that conversation. UNC is right there sitting at that 6th spot that's coming into it. But just kind of over the last couple of years, here's what I've been looking at, is that you can have a lot of talent on those teams, man. And Duke is I'm a huge fan of Duke basketball, Duke football as well, but I'm a Duke fan. And so I've watched this talent come in there. But I'm telling you, man, there's some key things that you got to have along with that besides just that talent. You got to have a team that's going to play defense, and you got to have a team that's going to have that point guard or that leader on the court. It's not always the best player on the team, but it's a team who's got that who's got that leader that's on that team right there that's able to kind of drive things. And it's also, we've seen over the last several years, man, the teams that are winning these national championships are teams that have a senior or junior-laden kind of some experience there on the back end of that court. So while I'm excited about this Duke team that's being put together this year, man, the talent that is there, I'm wondering where that leadership is going to come from. I'm wondering about what the defense is going to be able to play. I would have a little bit of that same conversation there with Kentucky, but, man, I tell you what, Kansas is right there. They've got some experience coming in there. Nevada, that's one of the reasons that they're being talked about, is because they've got some experience. Don't look past those UNC Tar Heels. As much as it pains me to say anything about that, man, the North Carolina Tar Heels, man, they've got that experience that's there. They've got that senior-laden team. And Roy Williams will have that team ready to play as well. This is going to be one of the more exciting seasons that we've seen, because there isn't that one team that looks like they're just going to run away with it. In the years past, it's been that conversation surrounding Duke, or the conversation surrounding Kentucky, or maybe another team that was up in there. But, man, there are legitimately, at this point in time, about 5 or 6 teams that have some claim to that number one spot, and it all kicks off next week, man, with a huge matchup between the Duke Blue Devils and the Kentucky Wildcats. Huge matchup.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm pumped to bring in the 2018 college basketball season. I can't wait, man. Like you, I can tell the excitement in your voice. I can't wait till we can kind of cram some basketball into this podcast as well, brother. Like always, man. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you jumping on. I've had a blast.
This has been great, man. I'm so excited about the rest of the remainder of this football season, man. It is going to get wild and crazy. I can't wait for this weekend, man, with especially those 4 games that we highlighted, man. That should be some good games to pick and have some fun to watch those. And, man, this has been great. Looking forward to basketball season. Thanks, everybody, for listening out there, man. This has been great. Thank you, Clint, for getting this thing going. It's been another great week.
No doubt, man. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the College Sports Hour. If you enjoyed today's show, check out and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube under College Sports Hour. You can also find us at heroesmediagroup.com by clicking on the show tab. Make sure to like and follow us, guys, on Facebook. We're trying to grow our following up, and visit our website at collegesportshour.com, where we continue the college sports conversation, post articles, and give our weekly predictions of what we deem as the most important games of the week.
Again, guys, this podcast has been brought to you by our sponsor, Blue 4 Tactical. Blue 4 Tactical is a local hub for shooting novices and enthusiasts alike that delivers superior customer service while providing high-quality firearms and accessories, as well as informative and engaging classes taught by knowledgeable and passionate instructors, all at the most fair and competitive prices around. Blue 4 Tactical wants you to be a part of their family at your home, away from home. Be ready, be prepared, be decisive.
Guys, Blue 4 Tactical website is almost officially out. You're going to be able to find it at blue4tactical.com. Again, I say blue4tactical.com. We're going to be able to. We have a huge lineup of things to give the everybody that, you know, if you're a gun enthusiast, whatever you got, if you need training, we got you covered. So, guys, we want to give a special shout out to our family and friends, include all of our listeners, our followers, our subscribers. Thanks for continuing to support what we do. Don't forget, guys, to join us next week for another episode of the College Sports Hour.